Welcome back to Pack Mentality. I'm Matt Banwart. My wife Caitlin and I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California. And we started this podcast with one goal in mind, and that was to make fitness education accessible, engaging, and effective for everyone. Today, Caitlin and I are going to be talking about 4 problems that every person needs to solve to get fit. And we've been coaching a very long time. So combined, we've been coaching a combined total of 23 years if we combine all of our experience together.
Sure.
And we're just making up numbers.
Yeah. Over 20 years.
Over 20 years for sure. And what we'll be talking about today is 4 major problems that we see with people getting over this hurdle, especially when they're first starting their fitness journey. And we run into these problems ourselves even during our fitness journey as well. So here's a summary. Problem number 1 is the fear of vulnerability. I can't even talk right now. And exposure. I should have warmed up more. Number 2 is deep-rooted beliefs and conditioning. Very interesting. Problem number 3 is navigating social influences and peer pressure. And finally, number 4 is the paradox of choice and decision fatigue. And this is a major problem that we see people encounter, especially as they get deeper into their fitness journey specifically. So, Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So good to have you. Let's dive right in, shall we? Let's go with problem number 1, the fear of vulnerability and exposure. So let's talk about, how does the fear of judgment and exposure impact someone's willingness to pursue fitness goals in the first place?
I think this is one of the number 1 reasons why people don't get started. And it's just that fear of kind of like exposing yourself to the gym setting itself. And then also, you're kind of admitting in the sense that you have an issue and that needs to be solved. And just doing that in itself is a lot for people. And I think it's a big step that a lot of people tend to procrastinate on. And yeah, they all think, I think the number 1 thing I hear from all of my new clients at least is just that, it's so intimidating in the gym because everybody is so fit or they know what they're doing. And I'm like, no, they don't. I know people think that everyone in the gym knows what they're doing, but they really don't. That's why they're there, because they want to get better. They want to be coached just as much as anybody else. And regardless of how long you've been doing fitness, you can always improve on something. So just the whole being judged, I see it all the time too in class. Everybody looking around at other people, the new ones at least. As you've been at the gym longer, you tend to start to realize, wow, nobody is looking at me. They're all dying, or they're all, kind of thinking about themselves and what they're trying to work on, and which is exactly what it should be. It should be a time of, to yourself, self-reflection, self-care. And, what's nice is that when you're in the gym, surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and who want the same things that you want, it's more motivating and it's more supportive. And so once you understand that, the fear of the gym and the judgment and the vulnerability, it completely goes out the window, but people aren't willing to take the first step.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you because as someone, I know that you were always athletic and you were never intimidated by the gym, were you?
No, I love the gym.
So I'm the opposite. So I think I can relate to some of the people a little bit better just because I grew up hating the gym, or at least, I grew up with those 90s movies where the PE teacher was super mean and would make you climb the ropes. And I saw fitness almost as a punishment because even when I played baseball and we did conditioning or like agility work, I always saw it as like, man, we're being punished for something that we did. And so that's kind of the preconceived notion that I had when I started with it. And you couldn't pay me to work out when I first started. And a lot of it really was some of these same issues was that I didn't want my weaknesses to be exposed. I thought everyone was looking at me. I remember the first time I walked into the weight room, I walked right out. I was like, nope, this is not for me. But then once I got going, once I was in enough of a deficit or deprivation to where I had to swallow my ego and my pride and go into the weight room and start lifting, I realized that, hey, I remember this specifically, there's this one time when I was benching and then some very much older, experienced power lifter came up to me and was like, hey, move your elbows here a little bit and then let me spot you because it's a little heavy. And then I remember having that first experience where he offered to help me, someone who he was very intimidating, and he's like, great job, man. And I was like, that was a huge positive reinforcement experience that I had. And And then I remember specifically, he's like, great job, man. Like, keep at it, dude. Stay in the gym. Keep working hard, bro. And that was a really life-changing moment for me to where like, oh, okay. Like, you know, it's not like, I think we all have these images in our heads of like the movies of where it's like, oh, like all these people and you know, fit people already kind of have like this aura around them sometimes, at least in people's heads, that they think that they're better than everyone else when that's not true at all.
No.
It's like, we're all trying to better ourselves. And, you know, there are stuck up people in the world, but there's also very stuck up, unfit people in the world as well.
Yeah. And there's, you know, just like anything else, there's good teachers and bad teachers. And that's where experience, you know, unfortunately, if you have bad experiences growing up, you know, that's kind of why you have the preconceived notion that the gym is, you know, negative or unsupportive. But you can't live your life like, if you live your life always reflecting back on past situations, you're never going to, you know, move forward and expose yourself to potential good experiences. And you know, that's why finding the right gym or the right style of fitness is so important for everybody. And, you know, I'll go ahead and say it, but weightlifting isn't for everybody. Strength training is for everybody.
Yes.
But the style of strength training varies from person to person. So for myself, you know, I know that I'm going to have to do fitness for the rest of my life. Now, I'm not going to choose to do Pilates or yoga or anything like that because I don't have any interest in that.
Right.
What interests me is weightlifting, bodybuilding, you know, even running and cardio stuff like that. Like that interests me more. And so I'm going to invest my time into that. But for, you know, the new beginner, it's important to expose yourself to different environments and find the one that fits best for you, where you feel the most confident, where you have the most positive reinforcement from your coaches or from your community, whoever, you know, inspires you to do fitness. Like that's what you have to find first, and hopefully you find a place that doesn't judge you, supports you, and pushes you in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You have to find something that you actually enjoy, and unfortunately, you're going to have to
put yourself out there.
Yeah, do a lot of volume and figure out what does work, because you're never going to find it if you don't try.
Yeah, and I see it all the time. Like a new person will come into the gym and they take class, and you know, at Red Wolf, we push ourselves. And that first initial like class experience is kind of rough for some people sometimes, because they haven't ever seen, I think, in my opinion, they haven't ever seen so many people love fitness and work hard at fitness all at once.
I agree.
And that is intimidating, but also it's either going to go two ways, right? Either they're going to be super inspired and want to be just like everybody else, or they're going to be super fearful and it's going to be too much. So, you know, that's why Matt and I both say, like, you need to do a lot of reps. You need to do a lot of trial and error, and, you know, put yourself out there, especially if you want something. Well, then you need to go after it. You can't just sit back and wait for the right time, or when you're in the right mindset. It's never going to happen. You just have to go.
Yeah, you just have to start somewhere. You know, it's not going to be perfect, and it never is. Yeah, I like what you said there, and I think this kind of prompted something in my brain that I wanted to bring up, was that there's a lot of like societal and like pressures and even personal insecurities that can make people feel vulnerable when exercising in like a group setting. And I think a lot of people have this thing. It kind of plays in that whole thing where they feel like they need to be fit before they can start.
Mm-hmm.
And that prevents people from starting their fitness journey to begin with as well. But like we all started from ground zero.
Yeah. I mean, multiple times you can start from ground zero, whether you be injured or pregnant or whatever. You're going to start back, you know, at a deficit, or you're going to start at, like Matt said, ground zero. And you are holding yourself back if you are waiting to be more fit. I don't even understand how that would work. Like, when are you fit enough to go in the gym? Who decides that? You?
But yeah, what does that even mean?
Exactly. Like, who decides that? When do you have it? It would be different if somebody had like a goal of, okay, I need to be able to do 50 air squats on my own before I go to the gym.
Or climb Mount Everest.
Yeah, whatever. But most people don't even have that thought process. They just have already cut off their ability to go in the gym because they're like, well, I'm not ready yet. Well, when are you going to be ready? Yeah. And what does that look like?
Exactly. It's like, what story am I telling myself about myself? And that's when people start getting in their own heads. And then that prevents them from doing anything in the first place. And sitting on the sidelines is going to do nothing. So while you're sitting there telling yourself stories and thinking about it and mulling it over, you're getting worse.
Yeah.
You're going backwards.
I think about this all the time. All the time. I think about it in the gym, like if, so-and-so were to just literally bite every day for 100 days straight versus waiting for the right workout or the right time or whatever. If they just like did a little bit every single day and just get in the gym every single day for 100 days straight, think of where you would be. And versus if you just, sat at home and was like, oh, tomorrow, oh, the workout doesn't look good. Oh, I'm too tired today. You're just letting time pass by. And then people wonder why they aren't getting their results. Where are the results? Well, if you look at it, you put in only like 3 days of effort in 100. You're going to get nowhere. So the first step is to get in the gym. And however you do that, you have to decide on your own.
Yeah. And going off that, I'd always tell some of my newer clients that the most important thing when you first start isn't intensity. It's not weight. It's not volume. It's not performance. I don't care how fast or slow you're going. It's frequency.
Yeah.
It's come in as often as you can and create a habit of just coming in every day first.
Yes. Because what is the number one thing you hear people say? When am I going to rest? You don't need to rest. You've been resting for years.
Wait, you've been resting.
What do you mean rest? Like you don't even do enough right now to rest. Like 1 hour out of your day, actually, let's be more realistic. Workouts are generally 20 to 30 minutes max.
Yeah, when you combine it all in.
You're there for an hour, but are you really working out for the hour? No.
The entire hour.
So 20 to 30 minutes is
of activity.
And you want to rest a rest day for that? No, you don't need that. Like, I'm sorry. The beginners, if you are 2-3, if you're under 3 years of working out consistently, you don't need rest days. You need more activity.
Yeah.
You need more steps, more movement, more time in the gym, more of everything. And we're not going to get tired or sore. You might get, now the big fear is getting hurt, but if you have the right coaches, you're not going to get hurt.
Well, yeah. And that doesn't mean that you're going intensity every day.
Yeah.
We're just talking about having some sort of activity every day.
And honestly,
disclaimer there.
And I hate to say it, but like, it has to be going physically into the gym or going physically into a class, because people who say they're going to do it on their own, like, oh, I'm going to go walk on my rest days. No, you're not. No, you're not. Like I'd say 1 out of 1,000 people would actually do it. Everybody else is just saying that they're going to do it.
And they find an excuse not to.
Yeah.
So before we move on to problem number 2, one more question for you. And what are some ways, at least, that you've kind of coached people through this, overcoming that fear, vulnerability, and kind of embrace their fitness journey? What are some strategies that you implemented as a coach?
Well, usually, I'm working one-on-one with somebody new. And I really try to find somebody else in the gym who's similar to them. And I try to tell them about their story. I'm like, oh, you really remind me of so-and-so. And I try to tell them about their fitness journey, where they started. And then I do try to pair these people up in the gym to give them, a reference point as, hey, like, this person is started very similarly to you and look at where they are now. And I think that kind of eases them into it a little bit more. And I mean, my number one line that I tell people is, don't think anybody here at the gym knows what they're doing. They don't. And they're not judging you. They don't even actually look at you. What they're looking at is sweat in their eye. Like they're trying to just make it through without dying. And when I just try to reinforce the fact that, like, well, the only person looking at you is me, and you should want me to look at you because I'm your coach.
Yeah.
And that's really it. And, don't look around at the rest of the gym, because that's, it's intimidating when you see other people doing stuff, but also try to start thinking of it in a different mindset of, oh, wow, that's so inspiring. Wow, look at that person and what they're doing. And I wonder how long it takes to get there, but I want to be like that too. And when you start changing your thought process, instead of everyone's looking at me, but instead looking out and being like, wow, like I want to be like them, then your fitness journey starts. And that's kind of like the starting point at that point.
Yeah, I loved how you talked about changing the narrative. Instead of putting a negative spin on it, put a positive spin on it.
Yeah.
Because comparison, in my opinion, is not the thief of joy. Comparison allows you to see what the next benchmark is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you compare yourself to someone who's super way fitter than you, then yes, that can be bad.
It's unrealistic.
But if you compare yourself to someone who's 6 months ahead of you, you're like, okay, well, that actually gives me a stepping stone. In 6 months, I could be there.
Well, yeah. And also, and I talk about this a lot too with some personal friends about how it's really, it's disappointing sometimes when people compare to other people. You don't know where that person came from. You don't know how much weight they've lost or how much work they've put in. And when you start judging and comparing people, it's not fair. It's not fair to beat down the effort that was put in for that. And I think a lot of people, like, judgment is just terrible. Just stop judging people. Stop judging yourself in general. Just, work towards a goal and have a more positive mindset on things. And that's going to start generating you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Instead of always holding yourself back and making excuses or pulling other people down. Like, that's not the community that we want to build, and that's not like the mindset that I want to perpetuate.
Yeah, exactly. And I like what you said there, because it goes off the same concept of like, what story am I telling myself about myself? Well, what story am I telling myself about other people?
Yeah.
And so we want to avoid that as well. And I think that's why people also get in, like, they feel exposed, is because they think other people are telling stories about them when they're really not.
Yeah.
And so,
for sure.
All right, let's move on to problem number 2. So we have deep-rooted beliefs and conditioning. Now, this kind of goes back more towards kind of like, growing up and, our family, our parents especially, and their health habits and how we kind of can inherit those. So there are some inherited beliefs there. There's like subconscious conditioning as well, because sometimes like we'll reach for something because that's what we ate when we were a kid. It's really easy to do. And, let's chat about reprogramming the mind. But first question is just for you personally, like, did you have any kind of inherited beliefs that you had when you were growing up? And, how did that kind of influence your childhood and to your fitness journey today?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about cultural beliefs and health is definitely food. Nutrition is a big thing that holds people back. And I come from Hawaii, very Asian culture. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and speak on top of for Asian people in general. We eat a lot of rice.
I love rice.
And rice is a really culturally important thing, and something that, I grew up eating rice for every single meal. My dad would make a pot of rice 7 a.m. in the morning, and we were eating rice for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And I never really thought anything of it until I was in college and, having to feed yourself. And I would that was like one of the things I'd always make because my parents always made it, and that was something we always ate. And it wasn't until I started paleo that I really realized how much rice I would eat and how much I didn't need it, actually, and how much it was holding me back. And there were other things that I could expose myself to instead. And anyway, it's something that I hear a lot of from my Asian clients is that, I'm Asian, I can't give up the rice. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but you can. And again, it goes to the line that I always use was, it's for now, not forever, right? I'm just telling you that, like, you should probably just cut that out for now because you don't eat it. You don't need it. You don't need to eat it. And but it's like the stigma. It's something they always talk about. It's so funny how it's always brought up specifically with Asian people. But the same thing goes for, like, I guess, Hispanic culture, right? They're like, wait, I can't eat tortillas. And I'm like, no, you can't eat tortillas right now. I'm sorry. And they're like, but what am I supposed to eat? And again, it goes back to what they grew up with.
What do white people eat?
White people, I don't know, chips.
I'm just genuinely curious.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something cultural for everything, whether it's what you cook with, fat, lard, whatever, or, or stigmas that you eat, culturally. And I get it. It's hard to let go of those things, but it'll take time. And just like anything else, as more time passes, your palate changes. You have to be more open to trying new things, putting yourself through a few months of, okay, I'm not going to eat this and see what happens to my body. And, for some people, you don't even understand how much inflammation you're causing yourself by continuously eating something simply because it's just what you do. And it's just what your culture is. It's just what I do. And I'm like, no, you have to be willing to say no. Are you okay with the fact that it completely upsets your stomach and makes you inflamed every day and you feel like crap? Like, no, you should just let that go. Just like if you have a negative person in your life, are you just going to keep them around because, well, you know, they were my friend for 20 years or whatever? No, like you're going to cut that person. If you're a smart person, you're going to cut that person out of your life because you know how much it's holding you back. Well, do you know how much the food you're eating is holding you back? And I think that's something that it's a very mindful choice and a hard choice to make, but necessary for sure in the fitness industry.
Oh yeah, and I have a lot of deep-rooted things, especially with nutrition as well, because I grew up very eating McDonald's.
You're eating the white person diet, actually.
I mean,
isn't that funny, everybody? Matt is Asian,
and you married an Asian.
I looked for an Asian, yes, and you know, he grew up, you know, in a white culture, basically, in a white household.
So I ate a lot of McDonald's.
Yeah, and a lot of soda.
And a ton of soda. Like that's probably my biggest vice right now. Like I don't drink sugary soda, but every once in a while I will treat myself to a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
And that is like my shit.
Isn't there no sugar in Diet Coke?
But still.
Okay.
Like there's still artificial sweetener in there and I still try to avoid it. So I've been drinking a lot less lately, but like the carbonated flavored drink is still a thing that I really, and that's like, it's kind of like, this kind of goes into like the subconscious conditioning of where it's like I just kind of go for it because it not only takes me back, but it's just so refreshing. So I think about those, takes me back to
memories,
summer days.
Yes.
Going through the drive-thru with my mom, getting a Happy Meal. And like, I would eat, and burgers and fries are still my favorite food.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like, I mean, I ate a ton of McDonald's growing because I grew up in the 90s. We didn't know how bad it was back then.
Yeah. I mean, I
drank Surge. Does anybody remember Surge? Mountain Dew, Code Red.
Yeah.
Mountain Dew in general.
Fanta.
Fanta. I drank a lot of Fanta. I drank a lot of soda. And I didn't, and same thing to your point was that when I started exercising and working out, I started to clean up my nutrition naturally because I'm like, well, if I'm putting all this work in the gym, I need to be able to recover. And so I started eating better. I stopped drinking soda, stopped sugar in general. And I mean, not only did my recovery improve significantly, but I was really baffled to find out how much clear-headed I was.
Yeah.
And how much that was affecting my academics, which I didn't even realize at the time because, you know, my insulin was all over the place. My glucose levels were spiked up and down. So I was moody and it was hard for me to concentrate. So, you know, for the longest time, I thought I had ADD when I was tested. Didn't have ADD. I do have dyslexia, but it didn't help my dyslexia. So,
yeah.
But it is proven through studies that if you can dial in your nutrition and have better food habits, regardless of what, you know, mental condition you may have or learning disability, that it will help. And so once I did that, and I didn't know that at the time, but once I did it, by default, my grades started going up. My brain fog was better, and like kind of what you said is like I didn't realize how bad I felt because I was just I always felt like that. So that was like
that's normal.
That was like my homeostasis.
Yep.
And I didn't know that. And then, but once I actually felt good, I'm like, well, I can't go back. So ever since then, I haven't gone back. And then every once in a while, when I do have like kind of an influx of sugar, I'm just like, it's a reminder. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I used to consume even more than this.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh,
in a smaller body.
Are we alive?
Yeah. I'm like, oh my, like I'm so happy that I figured that out at an early enough age to where it doesn't affect me as much now as an adult.
Yeah. And I think just talking a little bit about just like culture and how you grow up, it's very apparent now when like our families visit us, or if we go and visit our families, which is rare. But when we do have those interactions, you know, my parents, they do try to eat a lot healthier, and I'm very proud of the changes that they have made. They still don't eat the best, in my opinion, but you know, there are those efforts to make those small changes, like brown rice instead of white rice, or whatever like that. But it is still very clear that when we do have interactions together, that Matt and I eat completely different than how we grew up, because my mom definitely makes comments about like, oh, when did you start eating like this? So we didn't, you know, have you grow up like this. So when
you're welcome.
And honestly, it is a lot to do with Matt. Matt met me at a time where I was living by myself and I had zero knowledge of food or cooking or anything like that. And it's embarrassing to say, but and many of you will not believe me when I say this, but like I used to eat very terribly. And
what specifically?
Yes, Matt always.
Please tell the audience what you used to eat. And I was like, what the hell are you eating?
Yeah. I used to make like rice and hot dogs and onions and put ketchup.
I was like, what the hell is that?
And I would serve it up to Matt and be like, here you go. This is your dinner. And yeah, it's embarrassing, but like that was like a staple in my house of what I ate as a kid, and I thought it was great. And I was like, yeah, this is like what I would eat sometimes. You don't like it? And he was like, no, this isn't food. Like, what is that? And it takes, a little bit of clarity to be like, okay, I need to like do a little research and maybe Google some meals. And you guys, let me just say, it is so easy to eat healthy. Okay. The hard part is making the choice to eat healthy. I just Googled before this podcast, what is a healthy meal? And the first thing that popped up was vegetables, something that includes vegetables, fruits, and lean meat. Okay. And then
wow, groundbreaking.
I know. And then it went on to list like examples. And you can also ChatGPT this. ChatGPT, create a 7-day meal plan that includes vegetables, fruits, and lean meats only, and is in the range of 1,500 calories. You can be that specific now, and it will generate a 7-day meal plan and a grocery list and anything else you want. Put it in table format, put it in an Excel spreadsheet. It will do that for you. And it is amazing what you can do online. And I still cannot believe people can't figure this out. And it's not that they can't figure it out.
It's not a knowledge problem.
It's not. It's an execution problem and a willingness to just actually make some goddamn change.
Yeah. It's always been an execution problem.
Yeah.
Because there's been, when you think about it, like we've rotated through Tybo. There was P90X.
Tybo, wow.
There was the Bowflex.
Yeah.
There was the Zone Diet. There was the Atkins Diet.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Paleo. And then there was Carnivore. And then there was the South Beach Diet.
Intermittent fasting.
Keto Diet. There was intermittent fasting. But all these things do the exact same thing. They just get you into a calorie deficit.
Yep. It's that simple, everybody. And I wish there was a more complex answer. But the reality is that if you think you're doing it and you're not seeing results, you are not doing it. You're not doing enough. You're not doing what it takes. And sometimes I find it insulting that people think they honestly are trying so hard when I think about my life and, how hard we try. And, it's not fun. It's not fun eating ground meat and vegetables for my meals.
I like it.
Every single day.
I like it.
There are days where I'm like, I really don't want to eat this, but it's a choice. And I'm choosing health, longevity, and happiness for a long time.
Yeah. What are some common subconscious beliefs that you see in some of your clients that you work with? You don't have to name names, of course.
Subconscious cultural beliefs? Is that what we're talking about?
Not cultural, but just subconscious beliefs in general. It doesn't have to be specific to nutrition, but it can pertain to fitness. Like, what are some subconscious beliefs that they believe?
Easy. Number one thing that I hear all the time is, I think I have I have an issue, like a health issue, like where I can't lose fat in this area, or I have a thyroid problem. And I don't mean that in a negative way, as there are some people who really do have these issues.
There are some people with genetics, they just...
For sure. And if you get tested and you have the results, great. But if you're making artificial claims just based on how you feel or the amount of effort you feel you put in...
Or your metabolism.
Or anything like that. Yeah. Your metabolism is low because of other things. But if you're just making claims willy-nilly that, you can't do this because of this, you're just holding yourself back. And it's something I hear all the time. I can't lose weight. I can't lose fat in my legs because, I have this genetic problem where I hold fat here and I just can't lose it. I'm like, have you done legs every single day for 100 days straight? Like really hard? Tell me how your legs look after that. Like, there's certain things that people claim that I'm like, I don't even understand how you came up with that, because you don't even come to the gym 3 days a week. How does that make any sense? Unless you are in the gym 7 days a week, eating healthy, doing all the steps, sleeping 8 hours a night, low stress, like you basically don't work. All you do is think about health and you still don't get results. Okay, then yes, maybe we have a problem. But nobody does that. So we don't have that problem.
No, you have to there's a big difference between what you think it takes and what it actually takes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, they have this subconscious belief that it's only going to take 1 or 2 workouts a week and only 3 actual healthy meals throughout the week.
Yeah.
And they'll actually get better when that's not necessarily the case.
Oh, yeah.
And I had this problem with a client too, and I've already told the story before. Can I tell it again?
Again?
What?
Just summarize it.
Okay, I'll summarize it. But I had someone a few months ago come to me and they're like, well, Matt, I'm not seeing results. I'm like, okay. Well, first off, what results are you not seeing? They're like, well, I'm not losing weight. I'm like, okay, well, how many times are you coming to the gym? And they're like, I'm coming like once or twice. I'm like, okay, well, there's problem number 1. Okay, so I already identified a huge issue. And then I was like, hey, let's chat nutrition. Maybe let's chat. I can give you a few tips. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, so when we first, and they've been a member for a while. So I'm like, okay, so we've met before for a goal review. And I'm like, I kind of gave you like kind of a sample meal plan of what you should be eating. I was like, out of how many days in the last 7 days were you 100% perfect on every single meal? And we're talking like, and the only tip I gave him was like, hey, every meal, every snack needs to have a lean protein, like required.
Yeah.
And then some sort of vegetable or fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. Regardless, like raw, but it doesn't matter. Just like, hey, I don't care what it is, lean protein, fruit and vegetables. That's all you got to do. I'm like, I asked them, I was like, how many of those meals throughout the last 7 days were you 100% dead on? And he's like, and then they were like, yeah, most of them. I'm like, okay, well, specifically how many? And they were like maybe 1 a day. And then I was like, yeah, there we go. There's our problem.
Yeah. Well,
right there.
Yeah. You're giving D effort and expecting A results.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it, like how many, let's not calculate the percentage now, but let's say you worked out twice a week out of 7 days. What percentage is that?
It's an F. It's like 20%.
If you eat let's say on the low end, you eat 3 meals a day for 7 days and only one of those a day is a good meal. I mean, that's
even less.
That's 33% a day. That's bad.
You're still below an F, and it's, yes, we could just keep going on and on about the amount of effort that is required in order to, especially if you're at a deficit. Like if you're already at a weight or at a fitness level that is like good in your opinion and you're happy with that, it would be one thing if we're trying to go past that. But for most people, you're at a deficit and you're trying to get out of that deficit and just get back to normal. It's
going to take a lot more effort.
It's going to take A effort. Like you can't go by with C effort anymore. Like you're never going to come out of the hole. You're basically just trying to not get deeper into the hole at that point.
Exactly. It's kind of like, you're digging a hole, but then you're filling it back in.
Exactly. And it's just this constant process. And the reason why Matt and I can talk about this a lot is because I see results on both ends. Okay. Like I see the people who are just churning their wheels and just spinning in place. But then at the other side, I do see the people who put in the effort and really take to heart what I say. And they come back and yes, they lost 3% body fat and they gained a pound of muscle.
It's because they went all in.
And it's because they went all in. For example, Carolyn is a great example. I love using her actually recently because she did the first month, maybe 6 weeks that she was with us. She had decent result, but not anything great. And the biggest thing she changed for those first 6 weeks was she just started working out with us maybe 4 times a week, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the only thing she changed in her life. She didn't really change her diet too much or anything like that. So then when we did her goal review, I said, okay, let's talk about nutrition now. Let's increase your protein, decrease your fat, because she was eating a little bit too high of fat, in my opinion, and carbs, and continue doing the 4 days a week CrossFit with us. And then let's see what happens in 6 weeks. And lo and behold, she took to heart exactly what I said, and she lost 3% body fat and gained a pound of muscle. And Carolyn is in her late 60s, I think, right? Yeah, probably in her late 60s. And, for somebody her age and being a female, she is that person that everybody's like, oh, you can't gain more muscle when you get older, or you can't lose weight when you get older. My metabolism is slow. All these things pinned against her. It's not. It's all in your mind, everybody. You have to give full 100% effort, trust the process, log your weights, go heavier if you can. Like that's the only way you're going to get the process started and moving in the direction that you want it to move in.
Yeah, exactly. And before we wrap up things, one more question is how can someone reprogram their mind to overcome some of these beliefs?
I think it takes a lot of research on your own end. Okay, I think one thing that happens when people leave school, high school, college, whatever, you stop learning. You just stop learning. You stop researching. You stop exposing yourself to other ideas and other things out there. And when you stop doing that, you just plateau and you just become complacent, and you stop exposing yourself to other conditions. Now, the people who continue to read and research and put themselves and talk to other people in our community and kind of like gain more of knowledge and information, that's when you start to change these subconscious thoughts. That's when you start to change your beliefs and you start to kind of buy into the whole system. But it's exposure. And I think a lot of people just completely stop learning when they get out of school.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest mistake you can do, because then you are plateauing, but also you're declining and everybody else is getting better and you're only going to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I do coach some people on this one that does come up, it doesn't come up very often, but when it does, I always tell my clients, I'm like, well, don't give it that much power. Like, whatever you point the finger at, anytime you point the finger, like, take a pause and be like, well, why am I pointing the finger at this one thing? Like, what am I blaming?
Mm-hmm.
And then deep rooted, like, look back at what.
Turn that finger around.
Exactly.
Point it at you.
Turn the finger around. like you have, like, you are in full control of your health and fitness, regardless
100%.
of your circumstances.
Yes.
And, if someone, like, I did have someone come to me and they were, like, blaming their metabolism, and they just went on and on about, like, my metabolism. I was just like, okay. I'm like, stop right there. Like, it was kind of annoying me. I'm not going to lie. And I go, you know what? You're right. It's your metabolism. And I go,
we fix that.
Well, I mean, and do you know what I said? I just go, now what?
Yeah.
What now? I mean, it's almost like they're asking me for permission to be
blame
like, it's okay that, oh, well, yeah, it is.
Yeah. And you know what? In that sense, I like that. And in that sense, okay,
like
so
that.
It is your metabolism.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that then? You have to get into problem solving mode at that point and just be like, okay, so if it is your metabolism, you can, again, Google this or ChatGPT. What are ways to improve my metabolism? You know what it's going to say? Exercise.
Yeah.
Eat healthy.
Eat protein.
Sleep. Like all the things that you already know. There's no magic answer. It's everything you already know. It's just about executing on those things and executing when it's the most difficult. And usually the most difficult times are social settings.
Yep.
That's the most difficult thing, because I hear it all the time. Like, Caitlin, how do you eat healthy, at the party? Or how do you continue this lifestyle, when my family, is giving me shit over eating like that or not being fun anymore? You have to not care.
Yeah.
Your self-worth needs to matter more than what other opinions are out there. And it's easy for me now to say yes or no to things, because I value my health more than anything else, because in my eyes, my health is so important for my family, and my family is more important than anything else. And so it's a no-brainer at this point. It's easy. And also, I do all the other little steps so that when I do want to have fun, I have no guilt, zero guilt to eat M&Ms or to go to the party and eat pizza at the kids' party we have to go to, the birthday party or whatever. Like, there is no guilt, because the rest of my week or day or month is already taken care of, and everything else falls into place. And when you get into that zone, everything is just so much easier.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to take the steps to get there. I'm not saying it's going to be fast. It's going to take time. And Matt and I have been there. I mean, again, I was eating hot dogs, rice, and onions for probably months and thinking I was like the shit.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm totally on point. This is awesome.
Yeah.
No, I was not. So, it takes time, and just know that everybody starts somewhere, and you have to do these 4 things, or you have to get rid of these 4 problems before you start your true fitness journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just to recap, some tips to kind of get over and to kind of reprogram your mind is, like, have some awareness. Every time you point the finger, point it back at yourself, for one, and then ask yourself, well, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because it does, I mean, even if it is true,
Mm-hmm.
well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do?
Definitely.
So, all right, moving on to number 3. We're going to talk about navigating social influences and peer pressure. Now, this is a very touchy subject because, you know, the impact of social circles, we already kind of touched on this briefly, right before we transition, but that can definitely impact fitness habits, just the pressure of either, drinking or eating out or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes a detriment to all the hard work you're putting in the gym, then it kind of defeats the purpose in the first place. We're also going to talk about dealing with peer pressure and social norms, and then also the importance of building a supportive environment. So how can social circles positively or negatively impact someone's fitness journey?
Oh, well, positively. I mean, if you surround yourself with people that you want to be like, or, that resembles, the goal that you want to get to, that's important. That will positively push you in the right direction because of that automatic accountability that is there. One thing that's great about our community or at Red Wolf is that the accountability that the members hold each other to is so organic. I don't have to do too much, actually, because once you become a part of a class and the class knows your name, they will ask where you've been. And where have you been? Why haven't you been here? Oh, you weren't in class the other day. And just that alone should, keep you accountable to at least show up as much as possible, because other people are going to notice when you're not there. And you should have some FOMO, like you don't want to miss out on certain things. So having that strong, positive environment to set yourself in is important. I see it a lot where some people are like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, yes, they come to the gym and they really enjoy it and they work really hard and whatnot, but this isn't like their life. And I don't expect it to be their life. I don't expect them to just drop all their friends and only have friends at the gym now. But at the same time, you have to make that conscious realization that like your other friends outside the gym, I really hope are doing fitness or something positive in that sense so that it doesn't negatively influence you and hold you back, because that is the number one thing that people complain about is, well, what happens when I go to the party, or what happens when I go to the family event? Well, just like anything else, you're going to have to say no, or you're going to have to resist certain pressures that your family might put on you or your friends might put on you. And just know that your self-worth is more important. And it really sucks, actually, when you have friends or family members who are holding you back. Are they supposed to be the most supportive group? It makes me sad sometimes when I hear that, their family or friends aren't super supportive of them, doing, if eating healthier or going to the gym more, or making those decisions. It kind of sucks when I hear those things. It's disappointing, and I'm kind of the person that's going to say, well, you should cut those people out then.
Yeah. I mean, social circles, I would say, is actually one of the most important things for someone's fitness journey, actually. Their friends, their family, and that will actually help dictate whether or not someone's successful. Because when you think about it, if all of your 5 best friends and your family and your entire family, if they all went to the gym and they were fit, don't you think you would be pretty fit?
Yeah, I mean,
I would agree. Now flip it on the other side. Let's say none of your friends worked out. They all ate like crap, and your family also did the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the outlier. How do you think that's going to go?
It would be really tough. You'd have to have a very strong personality to not give in. And not too many people have that strong personality. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but it's definitely rare to come across somebody who's that driven and dedicated. It's so easy to just be like everybody else.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important to have friends at the gym and to make friends as quickly as possible. And try and make that your social group as much as you can, especially if you actually are looking to do this for the rest of your life, which in my opinion, we all should be.
Yes.
But I mean, there's a reason why, like I strongly always associate with people who like fitness or like working out, because that's what I like. And people there's other people who like associating with me because they know if they hang out with me, that I will push them in order to attain much greater things as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just, what type of life do you want to have? I want to have a life where I go to the beach and I hang out, or I go on hikes, and I live a very active lifestyle. And so you need to surround yourselves with people that are like that. And if that's the life you want to live, you need to drop whatever is whatever's holding you back, or the people who don't want to do those things, like, can't associate yourself with them anymore.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard, but it has to be done.
It has to be done. Like
it's unfortunate, but
and for me, when I realized that actually, like, you're not going to be friends, there's very few people that are going to be your friends for a very long time. Meaning, like, your friends from high school or college, like, that's such a small part of your life. The first 20 years of your life versus the last, hopefully 60, if you live to like 80, right? The 60 years of your life, you have to include the best people possible. And you have to be able to drop the people early on, or else you're just going to go, 40, 50 years with the wrong crowd.
Exactly.
And then expect when you're 50 to like make this huge change. Like, I'm going to get in shape now.
It's too late.
It's you've established these relationships and these processes and this lifestyle that
and these habits rub off on you.
They do. And it's like, really, a 50-year-old, you're really going to make this big change? Like, it's so hard. So I really try to encourage, the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds at our gym. We have a few 20-year-olds, but mostly 30 and 40-year-olds. Like, this has to be like a big change for you. Like, if you're really trying to if you're trying to lose 20 to 40 pounds or something, like, okay, we got to make some big changes then. Not just, I'm going to work out. No. You have to start thinking bigger, broader.
Yeah.
Like your inner circle, your outer circle, and go from there.
And realize that most of the times we're friends with people just out of pure convenience.
Yeah.
Because of proximity, when you think about it. Because like I had a ton of great friends in college, but we all moved away. Like we have they moved to Colorado, they moved to Washington. So now it's like we're not together anymore. So it's a lot harder to maintain friendships when you're there. So looking back, I thought I was gonna be friends with these people for the rest of my lives, when really, like, you're friends with people, unfortunately, like, out of convenience sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Convenience is a good word, actually.
Yeah. So I know that's a interesting way to put it, but that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hate me. I don't care. What are some strategies for handling peer pressure and staying committed to fitness in social settings?
Gosh, like just what I said before, I think you have to have a very specific goal. Currently, I'm working with somebody who I'm so inspired by his mindset, and that he is so pinpoint goal oriented, and he's definitely brand new to fitness. Okay, like, this person has never worked out in their entire life, never been in a gym, and wholeheartedly admits all of this, and is 40 years old, but has a very specific goal, and that motivates him. And Hispanic culture, that motivates him to say no in all the social settings. And because he's been saying no for a consistent amount of time, meaning like over 2 months now, maybe like 8 weeks, it's so easy because he sees the effects so much stronger. Like, should he drink something, like drink tequila, whatever, instantly it's like, oh my God, I see the effects dramatically, and I don't want any of that. Now when he goes to family parties or anything like that, it's like, no, like, I have bigger goals. This is really going to set me back, and it's because he took the time to really say no for the first 8 weeks that now it's almost easy. But people can't get through the 8 weeks. They can't even get through 1 week of actually sticking with the process and putting themselves first and putting their goal first. And once you establish that and it means something to you, like, it really has to mean something to you, that's gonna make things so much easier.
Yeah.
It's really cool to like really see it happen live with somebody brand new, and it's inspiring for myself. And this is something that I wish upon so many people. And I just only wish that they could experience that. And that is what's kickstarting such a huge, amazing journey in this person's life.
Yeah. I had someone come to me recently as well, asking for advice on this, be like, hey, how can I kind of, Matt, what are some strategies I can implement specifically to just tactfully let people know that I'm working towards this, when I am with my social friends? Because they didn't necessarily have friends who were holding them back, but they were like, you know what, like, I do have goals, and I am working on resisting some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, well, what are some strategies you think I could implement? And I told them, I'm like, just tell them the truth.
Yeah, you got to be more honest, straight up.
Just be like, do you want this? And just say, no, I don't want it. Mm-hmm. And saying no is a complete sentence.
Yeah, you don't need to.
You don't need to explain yourself.
Exactly. Explanation is where everybody gets really uncomfortable.
Because they want to spare someone's feelings when really, like, you asked, I can say no.
Yeah. And that's it. And then change the subject and move on. And if they really are your friend, or if they really are your, family, they'll understand. There should be no pushback.
Yeah.
And if they do, then they're not really your friend, are they?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's okay perfectly to say no, and then also say, I have goals that I'm working towards.
Yeah.
And then leave it at that. That's fine.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. I'd be like, oh, wow, awesome.
Yeah. Or for example, if like there's a party going on and you know that you're going to drink heavily there and you're working on like mitigating that, then if someone invites you and they go, hey, you want to go to this thing? And you could just say, no, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Just don't even put yourself in the situation.
Yeah. And it's perfectly fine to tell the truth and be perfectly honest.
Yes.
And it's a lot faster.
It is.
Too. And then you also will see, like, is this person even worth hanging out with? Because if someone's not rooting for you, then what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, you can root for them, but if they're not rooting for you and they're not, I would want to support someone who's working towards bettering themselves.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
Yeah, and that, for all you know, that could inspire them to also make a positive change. And then boom, you guys can go on a journey together.
Yes.
But that will also expose what level of friendship you're actually at as well, is when you put your foot down and you say, I don't want to do this.
Yes, more people need to do that.
Be direct.
Yeah, be more direct, be more honest, and be very specific with your goals and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why it's so important to build or to find a supportive environment that aligns with your fitness and health goals. And this is why I think, so from a retention standpoint, from numbers, like the average person will last at a gym for only 3 months. And at Red Wolf, our average retention rate is about 24 months. So that just goes to show that people not only see results, but they also stay there a lot longer, specifically because of the environment. And the environment was essentially, I didn't realize how important environment was until recently when, you cultivate a good environment and how much results can keep pushing off that. And then, like, goes without saying, like, a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah, a rising tide raises all boats.
Boats, ships.
Oh, ships. That's what our daughter's name is based off of, her middle name, Kaya.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's what it means.
Very nice.
Just
all right, we're moving on to problem number 4, which is the paradox of choice and decision fatigue. This is our final one. So in this day and age, especially with social media and the intranet, we're overwhelmed by all these options and everyone wants to do everything when really we have to get dialed in and focused. There's also the stress of perfectionism, where people will also hold them back from, we didn't cover this in the first segment, but sometimes wanting to be perfect right off the bat is going to hold people back. And then, just simplifying things and prioritizing, because I think everything is so complicated now and complex, and our brains are made to make things harder than they really are in reality, that sometimes just by simplifying it, we can actually start seeing progress in the gym. So in your coaching, have you ever seen this happen where there's like kind of like a paradox of choice and how that affects people's ability to start and maintain fitness?
Oh, yeah. Specifically with starting and maintaining fitness, always looking for, well, what's the best one for me as far as like a gym? It's like, well, just go out there and find one, try it, and then move on. Like you got to like expose yourself first, try it out, and then move on. You can't just keep searching the web, looking at the reviews, watching the videos and thinking, oh, well, maybe that one, or maybe get in there and try it out, and see what it's like. And you can't just live behind the screen at all times. With decision fatigue, that's a big one, especially when it comes to nutrition. I think a lot of people overcomplicate food. And I mean, again, we all know what eating healthy is. Vegetables, fruit, meat. That's it. We all know what to cut out. And when people are like, well, what am I supposed to eat instead? It's like, it's very simple. It's just, these 3 things and that's it. And they're like, well, what else? There is no what else. Like, just start here. I think it's like if people, and again, it comes down to comparison, like where they're like, well, so-and-so is doing this. I'm like, so-and-so has been doing this for 10 years. Don't compare yourself to somebody that's been doing it way longer than you. They're on a different journey. Your journey is just starting. If it is just starting, simplicity is so important.
Oh, yeah.
Cut everything out and then start to build on top of that as you go on.
Yeah, exactly. Complexity is the enemy of execution.
It really is. And I see it a lot, not just in nutrition, but in the gym as well, when, people are working out and they're doing such complicated things. And I'm like, you can't even air squat right. Like, you can't even do step 1. So you need to step back, perfect the basics. And then again, once you have consistency and enough trial and error, then you can start to add to that. But until then, your step 1 is to simplify as much as possible.
Yeah. People, and I fall victim to this as well, is that I really overcomplicate things and I make things way harder in my brain than they really are. And really, things are a lot more simple than people think. It's like, I mean, when you list off the things that you need to do, like you need to accumulate 75 minutes of higher intensity aerobic exercise, 150 minutes of about zone 2 exercise. You need to hit each muscle group about twice a week. You need to accumulate 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week or per exercise. And you be training to almost failure. Mm-hmm. That's it. In terms of fitness,
it sounds complicated to a beginner, I guess. I mean, that sounded a little complicated, but
I mean, I just summarized how to get fit in 30 seconds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think what happens is people become too emotional and too attached to things. Fitness and health is very logical. It's very logical and it's very science-based, which is relieving in a sense that there is an answer to this. It's not mathematical. Now, it's not like 1 + 1 is 2.
But there's a series of inputs that will yield a specific output.
Exactly. There is a process, there is a system that is proven to work for pretty much everybody. And, if you are doing the process, you will get results. It's the people who think they're doing this part and then a little bit on this one and then just a little bit on this part and then I should still get the result. No, that's not it.
It's the thing is once you commit, you need to fully commit. And commitment, in my definition, is the elimination of alternatives. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem, is that people will commit to something, but they'll also be 20% here, 20% there, 10% here, kind of dabbling in these different things. And you need to eliminate every other alternative and focus on just one thing.
Yep.
And sometimes that means taking a step back from something else. And so one of my favorite quotes is, to do great things, we must do fewer things.
Yes.
So don't think about what you can add. Think about what can you take away?
What can you cut
trim?
out? Yeah.
What are things not only in life, but in even in fitness and your nutrition? So for us, for our nutrition, it's what can we do to simplify this? Well, that's why we went with a ground meat.
Yeah. We cut everything out. Yep.
We're it's easier to cook.
Mm-hmm.
It cooks faster.
Yep.
It's easier to season. It's easier to store.
Yeah.
It digests easier. It's, like you said, it's easier to chew. And so we eliminated the other protein alternatives.
Yeah. And that was, it seems so small, but it was such a big helping factor.
Huge impact.
Huge impact. Yes.
Saved us stress. The kids will eat it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Also saves us money, because when you look at it,
it's cheaper to buy ground meat versus any other types of cuts of protein.
Yeah. And it's also, what percentage lean it is as well. So
exactly.
It's we have so much more information on the macronutrients we're consuming right then and there without having to really log anything.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the kids will eat it too. So it's saving us even more. We don't have to make a separate meal or anything like that. It's all in one, and you really can't mess it up. You cannot mess up ground meat. You cook it until it's brown. Done.
Yeah. And even if you do mess it up, you just add a little bit of sauce.
Yeah.
If you overcook it,
so fine.
If it's a little dry, you just add you can add some eggs to it, some over easy eggs, or add some sauce.
Yeah.
You're good to go. And then cook up some broccoli and you're good.
Yeah, salsa. I love salsa.
Salsa works great.
Guacamole, and just throw that on there and you have a salad bowl, everybody. A deconstructed taco salad. That's literally what we eat every day.
And you can batch cook that very easily.
Yes. And one of the biggest challenges that was very successful at our gym that we ran, I think a year and a half ago, was the habits challenge. And I just basically told everybody to only focus on 3 things. And those 3 things was sleep, protein, and steps. And we cut everything. Who cares about anything else? I didn't care about carbs. I didn't care about fats, calories. I didn't care about, how many times you go and work out. I didn't care about any of that. What I told them to care about most was just those 3 things. And we had huge results from that. I mean, everybody saw improvement. And it was, well, it was habits, but specifically it was just focusing on just 3 things instead of being overwhelmed with everything else. And that impacted them more than just, trying to take on too much is what I'm trying to say. So
and I love that with the neurofocus. And, this isn't a great example, but I'll tell it just because it popped in my head was that, I was trying to get rid of my butt wake and make my squat better. So I never stretch or do mobility. But so I was like, what is the one biggest impact stretch that I can do and I'm only going to do this one stretch. I'm going to do it every day until it gets better. And that was a straddle stretch. So I sat and I did the straddle stretch up to 5 to 10 minutes sometimes, but I'm like, this is the only one I'm doing. So I focused only on that, and guess what happened to my squat?
Yeah, it got way better. And I stopped doing the butt wink.
My butt wink got better. It's still not perfect, but also that helped a lot with my back getting tight.
Yeah, I think when people get injured, they start researching. They start, going down the rabbit hole of like, oh, I need to be doing this, this, and this. It's like, man, just start with one and perfect that one exercise until it's like you could do it in your sleep, and then take on another exercise. Perfect that one. And then, slowly move from there. But what happens is people do all this research and whatnot. And they're like, well, so-and-so says to do this one and then this one. And then they do
and then they do nothing.
Well, nothing. Or they do like one set of 10. One set of 10 isn't going to do anything. Like rule of 100, hello. Like you need to at least do 100 reps to see any change.
Right.
But there it is again. People just overcomplicating it, doing just a little bit to see if it works and not fully committing to doing, going all in and doing that one thing as perfect as possible, like the straddle stretch, like you said. And then, lo and behold, that fixed it. Oh, weird.
Yeah. And that reminds me of a member, Ryan. She's working on her double unders right now. She's doing her own challenge. And then she posted an old video of herself of like struggle boosting. And that was only like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then now she's like nailing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, she just got focused on one thing she's working on.
One thing.
She's still doing all this other workout, but in terms of skills, she's only focusing on this one thing. And guess what? That one thing is improving.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I see it all. Yes. People they get excited. They're like, I want to get better at handstand push-ups, double under, snatch, back squat, all these things. It's like, okay, pick one.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, if you hone in on one, it will actually trickle into other areas and improve a few other things that maybe not as much, but it will improve other things as well. And then, after 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah. And that's another one of my favorite quotes is focus is what you don't do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's just like, because when you think about it in fitness and nutrition, like you only have a limited amount of resources that you can allocate towards unlimited options.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do everything.
Yeah.
So you have to, and our resources are time, or is mostly time, really.
Yes.
Time and energy. So it's like, how much time and energy do I have? So what will yield the biggest impact, and what input can I do to maximize my output?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, people really need to just, find a goal, get hyper-focused on that, and execute.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Exactly. Just narrow focus. Narrowly define the problem and focus on fixing that one thing first and move on to the next.
Yeah, and don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't think anybody's judging you. Just focus on you, and trust me, people will notice your results. That's what matters most.
Yeah.
And just wait for it. It'll come.
Yeah, it comes. It takes longer than people.
Oh yeah, it takes longer than they think, for sure.
We've already talked about that.
Yes.
So let's move on to, what role does perfectionism play in decision fatigue and fitness?
Perfectionism. Well, I am definitely a perfectionist, which is a good quality to have, but also a bad quality. Perfectionism is needed, I think, when you're first starting out, though. It's because here's what I see a lot of. Here's a good example. The other day we had chest to bar pull-ups. And chest to bar pull-up has always been a tough movement for people to do and understand. And you have to be a perfectionist. You touch the bar with your chest. It's that simple. And when people are an inch away, 2 inches away, and they're still counting those reps, day after day, just half-assing it, honestly, in my opinion. You're not doing it. So you're not trying and you're not being perfect about it, and you will not get results. Like, you are just treading water in place. You're not going anywhere. And so the level of perfectionism has to be high when you're starting out. You have to do things the right way all the time, not just sometimes, all the time. As you go through your fitness journey, I think perfectionism is still needed, but you have to be a little bit nicer to yourself, in the sense that, like, you can't be so hard on yourself all the time, because you do get to the point where you're like, I have to go to the gym every day, and I have to have high intensity every day, and I have to lift the heaviest, and I always have to PR, and I always have to do this. Yeah. It's like, no, I mean, again, this is looking like, a couple years down the road fitness journey that someone might be on. You need to have that process and thought process of, okay, like, be a little bit nicer on myself, plan a little bit better, and follow the process. But when you are first starting out as a brand new, fitness person, perfection is key. You have to go all in, just like how we've been talking about this whole time. Is you have to go all in 100%, do it right, do it all, in order to get going, right? To get into that mindset of, okay, like, this is me now.
Yes, exactly. Is it volume negates luck?
Yes,
especially at the front end, because it's a lot harder to get in shape than to stay in shape. So there's going to be an upfront cost and a lot of resources, both time, money, and energy, that you're going to have to invest, and just be like, okay, that anywhere between probably the next 36 months. Yeah. It's going to be hard.
Right. And you have
to be okay with that time horizon, and realize that, like, hey, I'm going to do this for the next 36 months, so that way I can live the next 10 years in maintenance mode.
Exactly.
Which is a lot easier.
It's for now, not forever, everybody. And, like, again, that's why I said I think perfectionism actually is needed when you're first starting out, because if you are just going 50% in, well, then that 36-month commitment just turned into 6 years of commitment, right? 72 months, or whatever it's going to be. And yeah, you're just going to, if you're okay with that, then great too. Like, some people really are okay with it taking even longer because they don't want to work out that much, or they don't want to try that hard. Okay, great. Then just understand it's going to take 10 times longer.
And please don't complain.
Yeah, and don't complain, because that's your choice then. But for everybody else, if you just wholeheartedly perfectionism and commit from the very get-go, it's going to take way less time.
Yeah, absolutely. How can someone simplify their decision-making process so that way, they can focus on what's truly important?
I think make a list, narrow things down, and then kind of prioritize and go from there. I think a lot of people they don't have any thought process. Again, like, it's like when you go out of school, when you stop going to school or stop going to college, it's like all those traits that we had and learned of, like, how to get assignments done and, like, planning your week, all of that just goes out the door.
Yeah.
And everybody just, like, forgets how to prioritize their time and in order to, be successful and get everything done. Because as a kid, you have a lot of homework assignments you have to get done. You have to study for the test. You have to turn this in. If you're playing sports at the same time, then you have to go to practice. Like, there's all these different things, but somehow we get it done. How come as an adult, we aren't able to get all the things done that we know needs to be done? It's because there's too many decisions. There's too much on our plate, and we don't have any navigational tools on how to prioritize, make lists, and then, check the boxes as you go.
I agree. And I think that we have to make decisions daily that actually have very little repercussions, but we still put them off anyway. So I always tell people, I'm like, hey, if it's easily reversible, make the decision almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, like, then it's not, like, if something does go wrong and you already know it's reversible, make the decision sooner rather than later, because then you can always redirect, and that will actually give you a feedback loop on what to do next.
For sure. And then also, and this is something I've been working on, is delegation, right? Trying to delegate things a little bit easier will take decisions off your plate, actually. And here's my example for the gym, and I'm going to go ahead and promote Red Wolf right now, but I don't see why anybody would join 24-Hour Fitness or anything like that where you have to actually make decisions on your workout. Like, you have to go in and be like, okay, what am I going to do today? Oh, this machine is not available, so then what do I have to do? That's so much thinking involved. And I feel this when we went to Chicago, and we went to the LA Fitness there. It was so overwhelming. There were so many options, and we had no plan. We had like no workout written down, and we just literally bounced around like crazy people, going from one machine to the other.
Cool. I want to try.
Yeah, and then and again, we did like one set here, two sets there, and
no structure,
and we got nothing done. And we were there for like 2 hours.
And we left and we're like, we didn't even feel like we worked out.
So I was like, I don't understand how people do this, because it's so exhausting and so much time and so much thought went into that. Whereas I could just go to Red Wolf and I don't have to think. I just show up. They lead me through a warm up. There's a coach who corrects my technique. Then they tell me what to do. They tell me how much weight to do, how many reps to do. And then I leave happy.
Yeah.
It's so simple. And yet people still choose to try to do it on their own.
Or they think they can do it on their own.
They can do it on their own. And in reality, you're just making it 10 times harder on yourself, in my opinion. Like maybe some people like doing that, and that's fine. But if you are a hardworking, busy adult, if you have kids, if you have a lot on your plate,
I highly suggest you have a high stress job.
Yeah, I highly suggest you find a gym that is going to make it thoughtless for you. You just show up and
I agree.
and it gets done.
Because we do that.
Yeah.
And we run the gym. We use our own service.
Exactly. Because I'm too busy to have to think of a new workout for myself or whatever. I'm too tired, and I need to take all the thought out of it. And I would love to have a personal trainer. I would love to have somebody to count my reps and tell me what to do.
Yeah. And, to simplify the decision-making process, I mean, we outsource decisions all the time when you think about it.
Yeah.
Or we outsource other things in our lives to think when you think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we send our kids to school, like we outsource that, or some people have nannies.
Mm-hmm.
We outsource our food. We go out to eat. We order DoorDash. We outsource that.
Cleaning. Our cleaning lady comes and cleans our house.
Like we already outsource so many things. Like why not? Like one of the best investments you can do is outsource your fitness.
Yes.
Because that is there's so many variables in it too. And while there is a broad generalized way to get someone from point A to point B, there are some minor details on each individual as a person that need to be tweaked in order to maximize the results in the shortest amount of time. And a lot of times that those people don't even know what that is.
Yes.
And so when we come in, we expose that and we're like, hey, you didn't even know this was a problem. We need to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have never found that out on their own.
Yeah, or they would have been doing something else that isn't benefiting what they really need to work on. And just like we said before, if you work on this one thing, it will bounce off into other areas that's going to help you in a faster timeline. If if you're working on the wrong thing, it's going to take a lot longer. But if you work on the right thing and you have a coach to identify that, you're going to get better, faster, stronger, all those things.
Yeah. And one last note here for you, piece of advice on the decision-making process is make decisions faster.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of waiting till the end of the week or instead of waiting till Monday to make a decision by the end of the day.
Yeah. I like, we went to was it in the conference that we went to? But they just said like, as a business owner, I have a lot on my plate, and a lot of times I push things off to the side because I'm like, oh, I can make a decision on that later. And then it just never really gets done. But in reality, I'm like, Caitlin, you can just make a decision in like 5 minutes. I'm just procrastinating and delaying things on because I know it's not that important, or there's not like a super time crunch to it. But in reality, it's like, just do it.
Just make a decision.
Yeah. Just get it done and get it over with. And it's relieving once your, task list is so much less.
No, absolutely. Any final thoughts?
No, we covered a lot today.
We covered a lot. It was a lot. That was one.
Hopefully you don't have that many problems.
Well, it's only 4, but we just went into more detail on this one today. Next time I'll just make it 2. All right. So just to recap everybody. So problem number 1 was the fear of vulnerability and exposure. And just remember that while there is a psychological impact of being seen, and that you may have some fear of judgment of others, just know that we're all on the same journey and no one really cares, especially if you're an adult now. Like no one's judging you. As a health and fitness is a normal thing, and we all started from nothing, so don't worry about it. In terms of overcoming, I'm just going to move on to the next one. I'm not going to recap all this. That's a lot. Problem number 2 is deep-rooted beliefs and conditioning. So some of us do inherit beliefs at a young age on that, and one of the best things you can do is to point the finger back at yourself and realize that you are in full control of your health and fitness. And we're moving on to number 3, which is navigating social influences and peer pressure. That the impact of social circles and will definitely have an influence on your fitness habits as well. And it's okay to say no, and remember that no or I don't want to and say is good. And it's a one-word sentence, and let people know that you have goals that you're working towards, and hopefully they respect that. And number 4 is the paradox of choice and decision fatigue. And remember that, just make decisions at a much faster rate. And also, when you are committed to something, remember that commitment is the elimination of alternatives. So go all in and
be laser focused
and win. All right. And that's it. That wraps things up.
Yep.
So thank you so much for listening. If this was helpful, please leave us a 5-star review so we know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit, and please DM your content suggestions there. We're always looking for new things to chat about. Until next time, good luck, have fun. Nailed it.